welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be an update on Pan My Eyeshadows. So that is a series that I do every other month here on my channel where, despite the name, I'm only trying to make dents in my eyeshadow. I'm actually not trying to hit pan because I am a slow panner. You're going to see that in my updates here, but I just set usage goals on 4 or 5 shadows and come back every other month to show you my progress, show you which ones I'm going to roll out, and then we're gonna pick new shadows, see the new color story together. So if that sounds good to you, if you like panning videos, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would love it if you stuck around, but with all that, let's just get started talking about these eyeshadows. All right, so like I said in the intro, despite this being Pan My Eyeshadows, I'm putting a usage goal on my eyeshadows because I am a very slow panner. So typically I will always have 4 shades, 2 mattes that my usage goal is 30 on, and then 2 shimmers and my usage goal is 20 uses for that. I come back every other month to update you, and then interim in those months, I also do just a rolling project pan where it's a full face of everything other than eyeshadow. So I'll have both playlists linked down below if you like panning just content. But let's look at my progress for the last 2 months. You know, it wasn't great. January was a hard month for me, but that's okay. Not every month is going to be great. And let me just swatch this out here. And I am fortunately going to have some rollouts, so that's at least nice. I kind of was looking at my progress and okay, I need to kick it into high gear here because it was a little embarrassing for a minute here. So this was my color story. Let's just go one by one. This first one here that you can't really see is MAC Malt. So I've had this in the project 4 months now. I only needed 9 more uses from my last update. So in January, I used it 5 times, and in February, I used it 10. That brings my total for MAC Malt at 36 uses. So I have hit my goal. This is gonna roll out. I'll be showing some close-up photos, but you're gonna see, I mean, there's like a shadow, you can see a dip in there, but for 36 uses, I've seen better progress. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm not gonna, question it too much. That's just how I'm using my makeup, and it is what it is. I know MAC shadows are a little bit tough to use. They're very densely packed, so they're not the easiest to hit pan on, but that's my progress for MAC Malt. I do like this shade. I've gone through actually like 2 or 3. I'm on my 3rd one of MAC Wedge, and that's one of my favorite just neutral browns if I just need something. And Malt is a little bit lighter. If you're any darker than I am, which all my makeup, the shades, etc. are listed down in the description box, Malt is going to be too light for you if you want just like a normal transition shade. So I would go with Wedge. I still think I like Wedge over this, but a nice shade, easy to use once I just buckle down and actually use it. Then the second shade, the second matte shade that I had was Give Me Glow, and this is the shade Retro Beige. So I rolled this in the last update, so I've been working on this shade for 2 months now. And in January, I used it 5 times. In February, I used it twice. So we're only at 7 uses so far, still 13 more uses, no, more than that. 23 more uses left to go on this shade. You know, it's not a bad shade. I am wearing Malt, this shade, and a different shade today. It's just, I think for me, more of a summer shade. This is one of my favorite shades to wear as far as clothing. I love like army green clothing on myself. I think it's really flattering. It's just like it's a strange name, like Retro Beige. I would have thought would have been more brown, kind of beigey. And this is definitely like, it is a khaki green. So it didn't really go with my Colorstory too much, but if I just kind of focused it on the outer V, I was able to make it work. I know that I don't have to use all 4 of these shades together. I could pull in other palettes, but I haven't gotten there yet in my panning journey. Right now, I'm kind of sticking with my eyeshadows, and I hate pulling out like 10 different things and having it all over my desk and cleaning it up. So I'm just not there yet. I'm sure I will eventually get there and be like those panners who can just use 10 different eyeshadows from different palettes, but for now I'm not. And yeah, this one's gonna be in for another 2 months at least. Maybe I can buckle down and use it once spring kind of hits. Hopefully, we'll see. And then the third shade, starting with the shimmers here, is Sydney Grace, and this is the shade Versailles. This is the shade you're probably just gonna see visually the most use, or the biggest, you know, change in this shadow. Trying to like get the light to reflect the shadow. This one I only use my finger to apply it with. Here's the swatch. It's just a very easy, warm gold without being too dark. I actually do like this shade. So I'm wearing malt all over the lid, this in the outer corner, the retro beige, and then Versailles all over like the 2/3 of my lid. So, you know, I did really like this. Most of the time, I just used MAC Malt and Versailles all over the lid and called it a day on maybe those days where I was really struggling to even put on makeup. It was an easy go-to look for me to just push myself out of bed, putting on some makeup and like getting through the day sometimes. So this shade came in handy, but in January, I used it 4 times. In February, I used it 10. So I am at 14 uses. And for shimmers, again, my usage goal is 20. So I do think having 6 uses left that I'm going to roll in another shimmer, because 6 uses in 2 months, like I'll definitely hit that now that I'm like getting back into my stride of just wearing makeup more often. And I'll keep this one in, obviously, for the 6 uses, still hit that, but I'm gonna roll in another shimmer because this will be my other roll out. This next shade is the one that I failed the most at, and you'll probably realize why. This is Sydney Grace, and this is Ladies Dancing, and you can probably see out of the 4 shades why I struggled with it the most. It's the brightest, it's the most colorful. I wore this once in January and 0 times in February. I debated that first usage on honestly like just decluttering it. This shade, while it's pretty in the pan, it does have like this duochrome flip to blue. Objectively, this is a pretty shade. I didn't think it was flattering on my eyes, but you know, I think I need to give it more than 1 use before decluttering it. That was really just kind of applying it. I don't even remember how I did it. Maybe probably like inner part of my lid or something like that. I need to play around with this shade and see if I can make it work for me before just automatically writing it off and decluttering it. I don't want to declutter it just yet. So I am going to keep it in the project for 1 more update for 2 more months, see if I can figure out a way to make this work for me, but it might get decluttered, and I really wasn't expecting or started this project to declutter single shadows, but I also don't want to keep things in my collection that I'm just not going to use. And like I said, objectively, like stunning shade. I should try this as nail polish. That's what all the comments are gonna say. I know they are. And I should try this as nail polish. I have hundreds of bottles of nail polish, so I hate taking away usage from that and using an eyeshadow, but I should at least try that and see if I can make it work that way, because I might really like this shade on my nails, but for some reason on my eyes, the undertone I didn't really like on. But this is gonna stay. So those were all 4 of my shadows. So just to recap, MAC Malt is rolling out completely. Sydney Grace Versailles is going to stay. However, I am gonna roll in another shimmer for this, and we're just gonna get started rolling in these shadows and seeing what pops up. I have my Tiny Decisions app pulled up with all my matte shadows. So let's just pull one here and see what pops up. And it is the shade Beyond from Sydney Grace. I have a lot of Sydney Grace singles, so it's not surprising to me that I got another Sydney Grace shadow. Now let's pull a shimmer. And I do sometimes pull in 5 shades if I pull in like a ColourPop, Super Shock. I have all those in here, and those I count as a bonus. I'm thinking of changing that. Let's just pull a shade and I'll talk about that after. Jump around sometimes too much. Not you, next, Give Me Glow. Okay, so let me pull those 2 shades and I'll be showing you the new Colorstory. All right, I found all of my shades and here's the new Colorstory we're working with. You know, I'm happy with what I pulled. There's not always a ton of variety because I am a creature of habit. I just have a ton of singles in all the same shades. But this is my new Colorstory for the next 2 months. So we have Give Me Glow Retro Beige that is rolling over. That's that top one right there. We have Sydney Grace Versailles, which is that second one right here. That one has 6 more uses, which I think is gonna be no problem. Then we have Sydney Grace Ladies Dancing, that really bright electric fuchsia. I have 19 uses on that to go. So that's gonna be honestly my most challenging shade. After that, we have Give Me Glow Not You next. And you know, I was like, another pink at first. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe these 2 will go together, but actually this and the Versailles shade will go really nicely together, I think. So since I already like Versailles, I think it'll help me really get my uses on this Give Me Glow shade. And then the matte that I pulled is this one, and that is Sydney Grace Beyond. Sydney Grace has excellent mattes. I'm not worried about using this at all. My only fear right now is just I don't really have a matte blending out shade, like a transition shade is what I'm trying to say. And since starting this project, I've always had one, whether that was MAC Malt or something similar. So I'll have to get creative with that, pull something else in from a different palette. I'm sure it's not gonna be that deep, but this is the new Colorstory. Excited to get some use on this Give Me Glow. I think that's the shade I'm most excited to use right now. I don't know why. I'm normally like a cool tone person, but I'm starting to feel like everything's getting almost too cool toned. Like we're just leaning too much into just gray, gray, gray. And I'm starting to like find myself liking warm tones a smidge more. Not a lot, but I have a feeling like everyone's been on the cool tone train for a while, and we're gonna start seeing a little bit of a shift back into the neutral warm side. But I'm pretty happy with the change here. Really just wanna focus on the Sydney Grace Ladies Dancing, see if I can at least make it work. I'm gonna say I need to use a shade at least 10 times. 5 times, what do you think? I'm gonna decide after I get some feedback from you. Either 5 times or 10 times is enough to know, I think, whether I should declutter it or not. Part of me is kind of going with 5 times. 10 might seem like a lot. I think 5 times is good enough to know whether I should keep a shade or not. If you disagree, let me know down below in the comments. But what I was saying, what I would also like to hear your feedback on is when I started this project, I also just have one of these drawers filled with potted single shadows, like my Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize, my ColourPop Super Shocks, my Victoria Beckham's, and I added those to their respected wheels, shimmer or matte, And my thought process in the beginning, because this is, I think, only my third or fourth update, my thought process in the beginning was that if I rolled one of those in, it would be a bonus 5th shade. However, since rolling these in, I have not pulled one of those ever. So they're just still getting neglected in my collection. And that was like the purpose of this series, is to give more love to those single shadows. I'm not pulling them in to shop my stash, so they're just sitting there right now. So what I would like to hear, because I don't want to continuously every single video say, oh, I'm having another change, I'm having another change, but should I just start pulling 5 shadows and that 5th one be from my singles that aren't in Z palettes and have that be in a separate wheel? Because that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, because at this point I thought that I was going to pull more of those shadows and have like a lot more bonus shades. So that's what I would just like to hear your feedback on, and that's what I'm thinking that I'll do for the next update as well. But I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Let me know also if you're a slow panner just like me. I mean, I'm just looking back at this shade because I have to put it away. Like 36 uses is sad. I even had one Sydney Grace shadow that I used almost 50 times, and you couldn't even tell that I had really used it. It had like no dent. So let me know if you're like me, or if you're just someone who can pan eyeshadows easy. I love to hear your thoughts, because a lot of people watching this do like to pan themselves, and I need some reassurance that I'm not the only one out there. But this is where I'm gonna leave you all. I hope you're having a great one. I hope you enjoyed my update, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.